Hi, everyone, and welcome to our ABA series. My name is Eleonora Magri, Board Certified Behavior Analyst, and today we have 10 minutes dedicated to the topic of punishment. We talked about in previous presentation about how important are those antecedents, what happens before the behavior, and those consequences, what happens after the behavior. And we have two types of consequences: reinforcement, which increases the behavior, and punishment, which decreases behavior. We have two types of punishment: positive punishment and negative punishment. It's not good or bad. Think about it as just adding and subtracting. And so positive punishment is that after the behavior occurs, the individual is given something that he does not like or does not like to do, resulting in the future that behavior not occurring again. For example, getting a traffic ticket or having to do extra chores. Negative punishment is after the behavior occurs, there's actually removal of something that the individual likes or likes to do, resulting in the behavior not occurring again in the future. For example, taking the iPad away. And so in summary, positive punishment, I'm adding something not wanted, and it can be a chore, can be homework, can be an activity. And negative punishment, I am taking away something wanted, like a toy, an activity, a person, attention. Let's dive into some examples. Specifically, let's touch base on positive punishment example. Remember, positive punishment, I'm adding something that the individual does not like to do. First example is the antecedent is the parent says, clean up the blocks. The behavior is child screams no and throws the blocks. Consequence, what happens after the behavior is that the parent requires the child to clean up the blocks and the train, given that cleaning up, it's not a favorite activity for that child, resulting in the child decreasing that behavior in the future. Second example, the antecedent is being late for work. The behavior is speeding, and the consequence is getting a traffic ticket. Third example, the child is unengaged during his free time. The behavior, salivates and spreads saliva on the table to get some sensory stimulation. What happens after the behavior? He is not only required to clean that table, but all the tables in the house, again, adding an extra chores that the child does not like to do, resulting in the behavior of salivating eventually decreasing in the future. Let's take a look at some examples of negative punishment. Negative, removing something that the individual likes or likes to do. First example is the iPad has no more battery. The behavior is throwing the iPad. What's the consequence? What's happened after the behavior? The iPad breaks and can no longer be used. I am being deprived of that iPad that I love so much. Second example, the mother is playing with a sibling. The behavior is that Johnny screams and throws items and hits brother. What happens after? Mom gives Johnny a timeout in his room and no attention. Again, removing that attention that Johnny likes from mom. Third example, the antecedent is that the parent asks the child to take out the trash. What's the behavior? The child takes out the trash. What's the consequence? Mom forgets to give Johnny his favorite TV show as a reward. And this is important to notice, right? That if we are forgetting to provide a reinforcer to actually increase this behavior of taking out the trash, we're actually doing the opposite. We are decreasing that appropriate behavior to happen in the future and acting like a punisher. Let's practice a couple of more examples just to make sure we understand punishment. In these scenarios, we're going to identify the ABC, and we're also identifying the consequence. It is time for bed, and mom asks Johnny to brush his teeth. She gives him the toothbrush. Johnny throws the toothbrush on the floor, runs to his room. Mom follows Johnny with the toothbrush, and with hand-over-hand help, that prompt, she's able to brush the top part of Johnny's teeth. Before going to bed, because of Johnny's behavior, mom requires him to fold towels, a task that he does not like to do. In the future, over time, Johnny no longer throws the toothbrush when asked to brush his teeth. Let's break it down into our ABC. So what is the behavior? That observable action is that Johnny throws the toothbrush and runs to his room. What happens before? What is that antecedent? Is that request to brush teeth. And what happens after is that mom follows Johnny and requires him to brush teeth, but also because of that behavior, she also going to require him this time to fold towels. We know that Johnny throwing the toothbrush and running to his room in the future eventually is going to decrease. And so we know that the type of consequence is a punishment. However, is it positive or negative? In this case, it's positive punishment. Why? Because I am adding an extra task that the child does not like to do. In this case, folding towels. Let's look at scenario number 2. Mary's mother was on a phone call for work. Mary begins to scream louder and louder. Her mother tells her several times to be quiet, but Mary continued to scream even louder. Mother is having a really difficult time attending to the phone call and sends Mary in timeout to her room until she's done with that phone call. In the future, over time, Mary no longer screams when her mother is on the phone. Let's look at our ABCs. The behavior is that Mary begins screaming louder and louder. What happens before that antecedent is mom being on the phone call. What is the consequence? What happens after the behavior is mom tells Mary to be quiet and sends her to timeout in her room, resulting eventually in Mary not screaming anymore when mom is on the phone. So because of the behavior is decreasing, we know that it's a punishment. That type of consequence is a punishment. Now, is it positive or negative? In this case, it's negative because I am removing mom's attention that Mary likes so much. Now, there are several ethical considerations that the board, analyst certification board, requires behavior analysts to implement. And it is to use a reinforcement procedure before using punishment procedure. And that is to do 3 main things: to ensure that there is least restrictive procedure or use, patients' right to effective procedures, and patients' right to safe and humane treatment. So when do we use punishment? Well, we can use punishment only if reinforcement procedure have not worked, they have not been effective in decreasing the problem behavior, and we can only use it in combination with the reinforcement of appropriate desirable behaviors. This leads us to our exercise. Now, we covered in previous presentation the ABC of behavior, reinforcement, and now punishment. So we're really able to have a good analysis of whatever identified behavior that you want to target to decrease. Just put the date and location, analyze what is the antecedent, what is that behavior, what is the consequence, and now try to see if it's positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, or negative punishment. Thank you so much for watching us. We'll see you soon.